for tuning in this week's episode of the Eating Podcast. This is Alicia. And, I am really excited and grateful and all the things today because I have Chandra Brooks here on the podcast. And it's so wild because at one point we had recorded, maybe it was like a week or two ago, and my system completely flubbed on us. And then we had such a great conversation, but she's been so gracious to come back on the podcast. Um, Many of the folks that I've been interviewing the past few weeks have MS, like myself, and so I am just so elated to have met so many wonderful MS warriors that have been willing to share their stories here on the podcast. And once again, I am just so grateful that Chandra's back. So, Chandra, thank you so much for joining me here on the Eat Me podcast again.
Oh, you're welcome. Anytime. I'm glad I'm able and available.
Right. Thank you so much. And we had talked about this prior, but I always ask folks, especially for because people might want to know, like when you were diagnosed, or even before you were diagnosed with MS, what were some of the things, like some of the symptoms that you were experiencing that you were like, "What is going on with me? Like, I need to get this checked out."
Um, I know I was having cognitive issues, but it was like it wasn't anything major.
Right.
And yeah, I guess one cognitive issue I had a primary care at the time, primary care physician that my mother and I shared. And one
Mm-hmm.
day I found myself calling the doctor. I'm like, yeah, I'll come in, but then I'll cancel it. I did it like 3 times to the
Right.
point where one of the office managers called my mom and was like, okay, look, I don't know what's going on with Chandra,
Right.
but if she cancels any more appointments, we have to drop her as a patient. And I was like,
Right.
oh, okay, I never heard of that before.
Right.
And thankfully, the doctor, he knew me and he knew my mom. So
Right.
when I actually met with him, he was like, well, you kind of have symptoms of Bell's palsy. I know we talked about it before.
Right.
And he's like, you could have Bell's palsy or some other neurological condition. I'm
Right.
going to send you to have them do a spinal tap.
Right.
And they did the spinal tap and sent me to a neurologist. And the neurologist was like, oh, you have MS,
Mm.
and gave me paperwork. And I was like, okay. I don't know what to do with that.
Right.
Uh, yeah, so actually, ironically, some years later, I think it was in 2005,
Mm-hmm.
I had a relapse that was so bad. It was like a change. I was living on my own, then I had to move back to my parents' house. And
Right.
I guess, with the stress of everything that happened, it was agreed upon once I moved back in, I would find a job. So I was like, okay, I gotta find a job, I gotta find a job, I gotta find a
Right.
job. Well, that was until we didn't add in MS. I had a relapse that was so severe. Out of the two, at least two of the interviews I went on, one was calling and they were like, oh my gosh, Chandra's qualifications are what we're looking for. We
Right.
want to hire her right away. And my mom was like, she can't work right now.
Right.
And she didn't go into details. Then the other job, they wanted me to the point where they FedExed me a job offer. And this
Wow.
is, of course, what my parents, well, more so my mom told me. And she was like, Chandra, you're just sitting there looking at the box like, what is this? And,
Mm.
I couldn't comprehend and put two and two together. And
Right.
then, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And so, with your cognitive symptoms, is that all that you have going on right now? Are there some other things? Because, I was talking to someone the other day and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so true. A lot of what we experience, and some things are physical, right? Like, we can't detest that at all. But a lot of things that we experience with MS appears invisible. So it's like but there are some things that you can see with certain people. So with you, is it all like the cognitive, or are there other physical things that are affecting your body as well?
As of right now, it's physical because
Okay.
I had mentioned it last time. I had a relapse that started 2 years ago,
Uh-huh.
which required me to, long story short, I was in a hospital. I had a pressure sore that was so bad they had to do, I forgot what they had to scrape the skin just to make sure that everything was okay.
Right.
And they were like, you have to be in a nursing home. So I was
Mm.
in a nursing home for probably about a little over a month.
Okay.
And now I'm back at my parents' house, but I'm confined to a hospital bed. And I have the ability, of course, with help, to
Mhm.
transfer to a wheelchair and stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
Right.
And this has never happened for me before. I was diagnosed in 2002. But I
Okay.
guess, with MS, like, there's a poster or someone, they're like, yeah, having MS is like crossing the street and getting hit by a plane. And
Right.
at first I was like, oh, yeah, that's funny. But now I'm like, yeah, I understand that. It's like,
Right.
just all the invisible and unexpected things and stuff like
Right.
that.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing that. And I completely understand where you're coming from with that. Right now, I don't have any physical issues that are happening, but I think I had shared with you the last time we spoke that I was going through PT, physical therapy for my right leg. I couldn't stand. I was just having such a hard time. And like I said, looking at me, you wouldn't know that I was having such a hard time because I was good at masking my situation, right? I would just, I would stand for a little bit and I would sit, whatever. Um, and it's just wild how these things like happen. And it's like, okay, now I've got to rework all the things that I used to do, right? Um,
Hmm.
and even like also with my vision, I've had some stuff with my vision. So it's like you said, it's like crossing the street and getting hit by a plane. So you just never know, and it's the most random stuff. And it's like, okay, I got to figure
Yeah,
this out now. You know?
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So right now, are you? You say I think we talked about this. You're in physical therapy as well right now.
Yes.
Okay, and with the physical therapy for you, has it been something that's like um, have you been doing it for a long time and has it been beneficial? And the reason why I'm asking because yeah, I think some people, because even with me, when I first started physical therapy, I was resistant. I was like, I've heard so many people say it doesn't really work. I didn't really want to do it, but it did. Once I found a good therapist, it really worked for me. And so for you, like, do you feel like the physical therapy's been working, and like, how long has it been a thing for you?
Um, well, I've been on and off with physical therapy. At least with this session, it started the end of last year.
Okay.
And the purpose of this round of physical therapy is just to help rebuild and re-strengthen everything that happened from the relapse back in 2024. And
Mm-hmm.
not to scare you, you're like, oh my gosh, 2 years? Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, with it, you never know, and it
Right.
depends on, of course, how you feel and how you're able to do things, as well as being connected with professionals and support groups and
Mm-hmm.
doctors that really know their stuff.
Right.
And another short story, back in 2024, when I was in a hospital, my parents, of course, they took me and they're like, oh, maybe we should have gone to another hospital because that's like right down the street from the house. But then when they saw the seriousness of it,
Mm.
and how when I was hospitalized, I had two sets of doctors, um,
Mm.
a team of neurologists, and then the other doctors who were dealing with the bed sore and everything involved in that. And my
Mm-hmm.
dad was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I can see why you picked this hospital. They're good." I mean, the fact
Right.
that they did everything and they came and talked to you, they talked to us, they let us know everything that's going on, the ups, downs, and everything in between. I hope I answered your question.
No, no, you did, you did. And you know, and like I guess also too, like with that, do you? I was saying too, the physical therapy though. Do you feel like that's been something that's been beneficial for you?
Yes, especially with this
Yeah.
round. When I
Mm-hmm.
first started, I and my parents had problems being able to transfer me out of their vehicle into my wheelchair and then
Right.
into the doctor's office. Well, my therapist, when she did the diagnostics, she's like, okay, I see, I've worked with you before. I see where you're not meeting the mark in this area and that area. And she worked with both of my parents and was like, okay, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to purchase to help out and get everything done. And it's kind of funny now. When I try to get out my hospital bed, I, need all types of DMEs. And my
Right.
sister's kids, they're like, oh, Aunt Chandra, I know how to work this. Even down to my 3-year-old nephew, he's like, oh, oh, Chandra, get out of bed. And I was like, dude, no. But, to answer your question, the physical therapy is definitely helping because she, sees everything that I was able to do at one time. And then the
Mm-hmm.
area where I'm at now, and she sees that, I have, my parents working with me, and she'll sit there and sit down
Mm-hmm.
with them and with the neurologist at the physical therapy place. I was like, okay, this is what you need to do as she gets stronger. It's not going to be something that's quick, fast, in a hurry. But, the fact
Right.
that you guys work as a team and other people will help out, that'll make it gradual and make it more successful. If that makes sense.
No, it does make total sense. And it's funny when you were saying like you didn't want to like alarm myself or even the folks that are listening about the duration of your physical therapy. I can completely relate to that because when I had the issue with my leg, it took me a little over a year with physical therapy to get back to, just to be able to just function the way I did prior. And to be honest, I felt like that wouldn't happen, especially with the pain that I was dealing with. I was like, okay, this is it. Like maybe this is where um am just going to be. Because I just felt so like, okay, there's no way with the pain that I'm experiencing and just I mean, my therapist was amazing. Like she was always encouraging me, but always in the back of your head is that thought of like, is this going to be it? And if it is, like, how do I maneuver through life now in this new normal? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I understand.
So this, what'd you say? I'm sorry.
I'm saying I understand.
Yeah. And, um, and for many people, I just want to let folks know that are listening to this, a lot of folks that are diagnosed with MS, physical therapy is something that we go through a lot just to keep our bodies in motion and moving. Because, like I said, even though it can present, invisible with some symptoms, other symptoms definitely can affect our bodies and how we walk and move and through life in general. When
Mhm.
it comes to your actual support, I know you've talked about your family being super supportive. Um, has that been something that's like been like a like I guess like an inspiration for you to keep moving and going? Because the reason why I ask it in that way is like sometimes people feel alone even when they have support. So how has that been, just having, just your family and maybe there are other supports too that you wanted to share that have been helping you along the way?
Well, of course, my family, my two best friends, we've been
Oh,
friends since the 90s. And
mm-hmm.
it's to the point whenever we go out, well, that was when I was able to transfer from a car or a minivan to a wheelchair. I
Yeah.
could do that, easy peasy. But
Right.
after this, um, well, my two best friends, I'm thankful for them because they'll come over. They're like, yeah, we're going to see how you're doing and just find out what's going on. And the fact that we have the ability to reciprocate because the funny thing is, my mom is close friends with their moms. So,
Oh.
and during the times when I was going through things, they would call my mom and say, okay, where is she at? What does she need? And stuff like that. And I think there
Mhm.
was one time one of my best friend's moms, she came by and brought food for the whole household. You know,
Oh.
just having
Yeah.
people that are there and able and available to, help out and stuff. And, like my aunts and uncle, they're like, okay, what do you need? If you need anything, just text me, just call me, just let me
Right.
know. We'll work it out. And like when I was in the senior home, I'm grateful because my sister, my brother, my sister, and all my cousins, they were calling or texting, sending me cards to the home,
Yeah.
and they were like, "Okay, Chandra, we don't like this, but we got you. We'll encourage you." And yeah,
Right.
just things like that is definitely helpful.
That is beautiful. And I think that is something that helps people just along in ways that, because I think sometimes people feel like, oh my gosh, am I doing whatever? I think it's just knowing that that support is there. That alone just kind of keeps you going and makes you feel like, what, people love me. People want to see me, do well and be in a position where, um, you know, I'm able just to, be myself, whatever situation that is at that time. And that is so important. I think, especially at times like this, when you really realize who's there for you. And it's such a beautiful thing just to know that you have people that are willing to support you, regardless of where you are in life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I forgot to mention too, my church family. They've been
Yeah,
helpful in calling and encouraging me and that. Well, everything that they do is definitely
right.
really appreciated.
That is so beautiful. Now, currently, and I think we had talked about this. Currently, are you taking like any medication for your MS? And for those who may not know, majority of folks who have multiple sclerosis are take what's called DMT therapy, which is disease modifying therapy. And so that actual that medication, it doesn't actually cure MS, but it helps slow the progression of the
Yeah.
disease in the body. So all that to say, are you taking anything now or?
No, I'm in the process of, working out between my insurance and the drug
Mhm.
company to start Kizimta.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what my MS specialist and both of my neurologists that I deal with. I know I got a lot of doctors. They thought that that would be the best thing
Okay.
to just to see, and I'm gonna start off slowly as far as like the frequency of the injections, just to
Mhm.
see how everything will work out and stuff like that, and see if that will make things better as far as like
Okay.
slowing down the progression, like you were saying.
Yeah. Okay. And that's the thing, guys. Like um, a few of the medications that are out there for MS, um, you know, they're helping, a lot of people. Um, but it's like it's finding that right one for you. That's where sometimes it gets a little tricky. And so prior to them, like, saying that can't talk, Kazimta would be the medication for you. Were you on anything prior to that?
Let's see. Let me go down the list. Let's see. Um, I started on Rebif,
Okay.
then Thai Sabri,
Hmm.
then after Thai Sabri, Tecfidera, then Ocrevus,
Okay.
and now is what's bringing me to Kizemta.
Kazimta. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
And, yeah, and it's just wild. Like because just from us talking, and when we met, like you just have an amazing spirit, and I feel like, and maybe it does come down to your support group, or just you're just a joyous person, but to know all the things that you've gone through, and you still have so much joy. I know some people are wondering, like, how does she keep this joy inside her? Because
yeah.
when I was like when I was diagnosed, it just completely rocked my world, and I didn't know what to do. You know, um, but I do feel like I have a pretty joyous spirit myself.
Hmm.
But for you, what are the things that keep you going and just and for your light to be so bright the way it is?
Um, well, I know music and doing things like that, reading stuff like
Yeah.
that, just to keep me active.
Mhm.
That plays a part. And of course, like I mentioned about my church, I'm very active in my church, so
Right.
just doing things like that keeps my mind active, where
Right.
I don't have to sit there and be like, oh man, what was me? I'm in a hospital bed. I
Yeah.
can't move. I can't do this. And actually, I think it was yesterday. I was thinking about when I was first diagnosed. I didn't know how to handle it,
Right.
and I think it had gotten to a point where I was like, okay, God, you said to look in your word, just give me that one scripture, and
Mhm.
I'll just sit there and wait and keep saying it and confessing it and stuff like that. And that it just helped to turn everything around for me. And yeah, it did.
And thank you for sharing that. And because I think sometimes, especially with MS, and let me know what you think about this, because I was really leery initially to really, engulf myself into the whole like different groups, MS groups and stuff like that. Because when I was a part of one particular group, everything was gloom and doom. It was just always talking about the sadness of the diagnosis, and it was just kind of like, yeah, this whole like struggle type of group. Everyone just wanted to talk about their struggles, and I was just like, "Where's the joy in all this?" I mean, I get, yes, there are moments, right, where we have to like lean on people who understand what we're going through, but it's like, okay, but there is joy still in this life. Like, so for you, because actually for the listeners too, so they know, we actually met by way of a group that we're part of, a Facebook group. It's called the Black Experience.
Yes.
And and I have found that particular group to be so inspiring. And they have amazing resources as well. But all that to say, for you, when you first were diagnosed, or when you were looking for support, was it ever an issue with you being or finding folks that have MS, like support groups that were not so supportive, as opposed to like what I've, or maybe you could let me know, like, has the Black MS experience been uh helpful for you as well? Like, because I feel like it's been pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it has actually. 2005, after I was recovering from a relapse.
Uh huh.
One thing, my parents, one thing I'm thankful for them, they read a lot. They're like, now, okay, why is this happening? Why are you putting Chandra on this therapy? Why are you doing this and that? And I'm like,
Right.
okay, then, yeah. Well, in the midst of it, my mom found out, well, she should start volunteering just to get, her mind working and
Right.
just to stay busy and stuff like that.
Right.
And I started volunteering for the DC area chapter of the MS Society. I think that was like 2007. It was a while, but
Okay.
that was something that I really enjoyed doing because I had a chance to meet all types of people.
Right.
And, some people who were wheelchair bound or using crutches, or people who were active in all the walks, the bike rides, and all that stuff.
Right.
So I had a chance to see that, as well as in the midst of participating in their activities. That's when I found out about the different support groups. And I think at that time I was part of two different ones
Uh huh.
that were close to me and stuff. But it, yeah, just being a part of a group definitely will help in making sure that it's not the whole bloom and groom thing.
Yes. And once I found that Facebook group, one, it really just kind of like brought relief to me, because one, it's like, oh, there are more Black people out here that are diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Because when I was first diagnosed, I was told, this is what white women get. Like, Like that
Hmm.
was because that's always been like the common denominator for this disease are white women. And so
Yeah.
when I got the diagnosis, even the doctors were like, this is kind of, it's very rare for black people to get this disease. So I just kind of thought I was in my own world. And so for you, when you were diagnosed, were you told that, or were you already in a space that and knew that there were other black folks that had this actual disease?
Um, Actually, at that time, there weren't as many blacks. And I
Right,
think the last time we talked about it, I remember the two people, well, at least, Lena Horne. Uh, yeah, one of the MS groups that I was a part of.
right,
Their thing was they were, showing about blacks who had MS, and it was Tamia, Lena Horne, Richard Pryor, Montel Williams,
right,
and people like that, just to let you know that you're not alone and things of that
right.
nature. And during that time, another funny, ironic thing, when I started going to the location of the therapy that I go to now, which is probably about an hour and a half from my house. When I
Mm-hmm.
first started going there, people were like, "Hold on, I've seen you before." I was like, "Are you sure?" Because I'm like this. She's like, "Oh, I remember you used to go work with the MS Society, at the state of Maryland." I was like, "Okay, yeah, thank you." And then the other thing is, there's someone who's a part of our group. When
Okay.
I was at physical therapy, yeah, I was at physical therapy. The woman was signing in and she saw my name, so she waited until my therapy was over. She's like, "Oh, hi, Chandra. I know you and I, we're part of a group on Facebook,
Oh my
and we
gosh.
just started communicating, and we still communicate off and on, and we're like, okay, so how about you have this friend come to the same place you go to and talk. We just use that camaraderie right there just
Right.
to let people know that live close by that, of course you're not alone, and that there's a lot of help available and things like that."
Chandra, this was a great conversation. Thank you so much for joining me again, and being so gracious to share your story. I hope that it touches many. I know it will touch many folks. So, thank you so much again, and y'all, thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Eat Me podcast. I will see y'all next week. Thanks so much again.